Perhaps you feel inferior or you wish to adopt a more dominant position amongst your peers or the people you know. Here are some charisma tactics you can use to present yourself in a more dominant position, to be a little bit more respected and paid attention to in a room. If you want what you said to be valued and heard, then you have to make your speech more valuable. You have to make your attention more valuable. And attention is a precious resource. The longer you speak, the higher the price you are making the person who's listened to you pay. So the higher the value you bring ought to be. Value typically comes from entertainment, information, making sure the information you give is interesting, valuable, and useful, good feelings, making them feel important or good about themselves, and finally scarcity, being able to withhold when you just want to spaz out random things that aren't very useful or important, or perhaps deliver misinformation or just try to sound smart, and you end up talking in circles and not really delivering any value. And to make your attention valuable and scarce, you don't have to deliberately hold it back. You have to spend your time and your attention and effort in places of self-investment and have things that are important to you that you're investing a lot of your time in. To make your speech more valuable is not to just never speak. It's a way of expressing yourself where you are not being overcritical about everything you say, everything you deliver, but you are simply a little bit more careful. You want to make sure that you're not giving out misinformation. You want to make sure that when you speak, it's not simply to fill in gaps. And there's no way you can do this well without practice. You have to spew out some things that are imperfect. You have to say a lot of unnecessary things that affect your charisma and how you present yourself. And that's okay, you'll learn over time. I'm not encouraging you to be overcritical about everything you say. It's something that you have to evaluate post-conversation. And then you come back to it the next day and you be a little bit more careful with something you noticed about yourself. And you make adjustments slowly, and you don't have to overthink it in the actual conversation itself. For example, you keep in mind that attention is a precious resource. Then you think about the conversations you had today. Let's say you were having a conversation with somebody that you intended to present yourself well to, but you ended up complaining about something incessantly long. Maybe the information you provided was something you didn't even do any research on, something you don't even know about, but you just decided to spill a bunch of nonsense, you ego project, just to sound smart or just to sound interesting. And you felt like you went incessantly long as well and you didn't like that. Then now you know that, you take note of that, and then the next day, or the next time you have a conversation, you keep those things in mind. Make sure you don't repeat those same mistakes. And you do this over a period of time, just keeping in mind that you are trying to make your speech more valuable, so that the next time you present yourself, you seem like more of a composed, well thought out and conscientious person. Next, let's talk about a good handshake. My commanding officer in my military camp, he's about average height, much shorter than me, but every time he shakes somebody's hands, his hands aren't very big, they're just very thick. And he will go around, grab that shit, and he'll ring you all around the place, and he'll look into your eye and smile. Eventually, here and there, no matter where you are, you're going to have to give handshakes. You're going to have to receive handshakes. And there are many different, cues here and there and things to take note of in the whole self-improvement space and the social confidence space. I think fundamentally what makes a good handshake is eye contact, warmth, presence, and a firm grip. Here are some simple cues that will make your following handshakes comfortable, sweet, simple, and solid. First, you want to face straight and face the person fully. You stick your arm out. Normally, if it's a girl, I like to be a little bit more artistic and put my hand facing upwards because it's like a little bit more gentle, it's less intimidating. You don't want to think about nonsense in your head, like what if I have sweaty palms, or what if I grip the hand wrong, or what if I grip it too hard. Just don't think about any of that. Face the person. You want to connect with that person, alright, artistically. Face them straight. Stick your hand out, look them in the eyes, nowhere else. Smile because you are happy to connect with them. It's as simple as that. And now, you grip only as tight as they grip, but with full contact. Make sure as much of your palm and your fingers are in contact with their hand, and you only grip as hard as they do. No harder, no less. You wait until they grip. You put your hand out, they grip it, you grip it back firmly, the same amount of strength. Then you stay there for a while, you show a bit of warmth, you show that you're happy to be connecting with this person, and then you step back. Done. My videos are typically for overthinkers, so if you find me absolutely autistic for describing something as simple as a handshake so in-depth, then you probably don't want to be watching my videos. Next, what is almost essential in portraying power is your posture and your certainty. And you're not going to get certainty from faking it. Alright? When you speak with certainty, it requires you to not be afraid that someone would interrupt you while you're speaking. And how would you speak if you're not afraid of your speech being interrupted? You speak slowly, you speak with a certain intonation, and it takes a certain level of comfortability in a conversation to be relaxed and understand that Even if somebody interrupts you, it's completely fine. And there are no perfect conversations in the world. We don't have to autistically try to optimize for that, because that's just not going to happen. To practice the way you speak, to practice adding certainty to your voice and lowering your intonation so you sound more comfortable in conversation, is going to take a lot of uncomfortable conversations. It's going to feel very awkward at first when you try to shift to this more calm and slow kind of speaking. You pause, you are comfortable with the silences. So you don't just rush to fill in gaps because it feels awkward. You have to feel comfortable in that. And those awkward silences are completely fine. They really are completely fine. We just overthink it because, we don't want to sit in the uncertainty that they could find the conversation with you boring, or they could second guess themselves for speaking to you, or they could find a conversation with you not very valuable or fun, and that's why you want to, spill in that a little bit more stimulus when there's an empty moment of silence. And once you get comfortable with that silence, you'll no longer go, yeah, but... And even if you do, right, don't overthink it. Keep the conversation going. Nobody really gives a shit. We don't have to be that critical of ourselves. We just review it and we try again tomorrow. And sometimes it's not a terrible thing to make those, what people would say are bad conversation tactics, because when other people speak to you in that way, they also want to fill up the silences with the uhs and the ahs. When you do it back, mirror neurons. They feel more comfortable speaking to you. They're not intimidated by your immense posture and certainty. You don't have to always speak completely perfectly. Why are you trying to do? Intimidate the other person, make them feel uncomfortable in the conversation? No, you would not want that, right? So sometimes it's completely fine to have an imperfect, dog shit, messy conversation, and that's lovely as well. It's all situational. There are no absolutes. If you wish to present power and articulation and sound like you know what you're speaking about, then you want to practice this speaking with certainty, lowering your voice, speaking slowly, not being afraid of pauses and being interrupted. But if you're just having a conversation with someone and there's no real, huge objective there, and you're not trying to achieve anything, you're just trying to have a conversation, it's just a normal day and you're speaking to someone, there's absolutely no reason to try to present yourself in some position of power. And to speak with certainty, posture is incredibly important. Your chin is tucked, your back is kind of pulled back a little bit, and you're making sure that the flow of your breath is smooth, clean. There's no locks in the way because you're not slouching forward, your shoulders aren't hunched forward. If your shoulders are rolled forward, you're kind of subconsciously telling yourself that you are in a position of being cramped in, and you're going to feel more anxious. It's going to be harder to breathe. You're going to feel like you're being externally pushed in, even though you're doing it to yourself. That makes you a little bit more reserved. It makes you a little bit more afraid to say things because it's a little bit harder to breathe. We feel a tiny bit suffocated in a bad posture. And that affects so many things in so many little ways. Like maybe we can't be as sharp. Maybe we feel uncomfortable where we are. We feel like we have no power in that situation because we're kind of telling ourselves that we should be more cramped in. Just feel free to open yourself up. Make sure the breath flows well. Make sure you're taking up space comfortably. And that's honestly all you need with good posture. Breathing is number one. If your breathing can't be any better, your posture probably can't get any better. Next is vocal projection. When you're afraid of being wrong, or you always second guess yourself, or you're always afraid of offending somebody in the group you're speaking to, what happens is your voice, the volume, it drops after a while. Close to the end of the sentence, it goes, "Hey guys, my name is..." But I don't really know. You want to speak a little bit louder than what you would think it would take for everybody to hear you clearly. Unless you're in a library, of course, or somewhere that you can't really speak very loudly. If people are to listen to you, then you jolly well make sure that everybody can listen to you comfortably. Don't make it a chore to listen to you. Don't mumble away and your voice slowly crumbles and disappears and loses its structure. Let yourself make mistakes, say the wrong thing and say it loudly. Of course, you're not screaming at the person, you're speaking clearly and coherently so it gets there. And you want them to hear it. You want it to be easy for them to receive your information because that's what conversation and communication is about, effective communication, right? Make sure it's not difficult to talk to you. And this will feel very uncomfortable at first because it's almost like you're arrogant. What do you have to say that's so valuable that they have to tolerate your loud voice? But think about it this way. Speak softly, you're difficult to speak to and they don't want to spend any more time with you. If you're going to open your mouth, just make it loud and clear. They're going to be thinking about what they have to say next more than how you expressed what you just said. So think of it as you're making the conversation so much more easier for the both of you if they can hear you loud and clearly. You might be afraid that they'll tell you you're too loud, but being too loud is much better than being too soft, because it's easier to listen to you, right? And you can always just reassure them that you don't think you're being arrogant, you're just afraid they can't hear you, or you don't want to make the conversation difficult for them to hear. And then you apologize for it, or you can just say, sorry, I got a bit too excited there, if you get too loud. But this takes a lot of practice, and you're just going to have to force it. Every time you're in a conversation with someone, speak a little bit louder than you would have. And with the good posture, with taking up space, breathing correctly, practicing speaking with certainty and not being afraid to be interrupted, this will all contribute to your vocal projection. You got to practice it, you got to speak loudly. It feels absolutely uncomfortable at first, but slowly you'll feel better and better. When you're speaking to a group, you want to address people individually. I'm still struggling with this because it's a bit awkward, right? You're just calling someone out in a group and having a conversation with them. But doing this is very effective because it shows that you're interested in everybody on an individual level. And that is so much more special than asking the group a general question. So how's you guys' day going? Instead, you go to an individual. Oh, I haven't heard from you in a while. And then everybody listens to their story, right? And having this individual conversation within a group is so much more special. Everybody gets a chance to speak to the whole group, and you're kind of guiding the pace of the conversation. And of course, you don't always have to artistically make sure you're in power in every conversation, right? But this just helps you feel more in place amongst your friends or the people you're speaking to. Feel you're more included, feel like you're part of the group because you're actually leading the pace for once. And it's really okay to do. It's going to be incredibly uncomfortable, very awkward also, but you just got to force it. Like, you got to be genuinely curious. You haven't heard from this person for a while. For example, they're sitting over there. You just turn to them when the time is right. I haven't heard from you for a while, man. Like, how are you doing? Tell us. Right? And everybody wants the conversation to go somewhere because everybody is afraid of things being awkward and uncomfortable. So they'll be happy that you got this person to speak, and now they all have a reason to turn their heads to them and listen to them speak. They're happy. It makes the conversation easy. You have successfully guided the pace and showcased that you're not too afraid of taking action, initiating, and it's good. In order to present yourself with more power, ultimately the crux of it is good mental health. It's an established and evident sense of self-belief that you have thoroughly considered, whether it's eye contact, warmth, presence, posture, certainty, social confidence. All these stem from good mental health, good physical health, good habits. If you feel like you need to establish more power in the way you present yourself, you probably feel quite inferior and you're quite a needy person who offers a lot of reassurance and things like that. And there's many reasons for that. We can go into the reasons all we want. But ultimately, it's because you lack self-investment. You haven't had the practice. You haven't found the evidence that you deserve to present yourself with power. You haven't proved to yourself that you're competent and you deserve that social confidence, and you perhaps lack social proof. You perhaps have many strange habitual thoughts that you need to work through. And hell, I would bet on it, you don't sleep at the same time and wake up at the same time every day. You don't eat properly and you don't keep yourself physically fit. And when we want to establish close relationships with other people, we don't want to artistically always have to think about presenting ourselves with power and being more respected, earning more admiration, being liked more, being more attractive. These aren't that important when it comes to close relationships. Close relationships require you to let your hair down, let your autism fantasy about power down, and just relax and make sacrifices. You're going to have to show that you're vulnerable here and there. You're going to show sides of yourself you don't like. You're going to have boring conversations. You're going to have miserable conversations. You're going to have to communicate with another person with bad eye contact, bad presence, bad posture. You're going to be uncomfortable. But those experiences with the other person is what creates the close relationship itself. You're not always going to be perfect in every conversation. But that's not saying that charisma isn't important and presenting yourself well isn't important. There are just no absolutes to things, and there's so much for us to learn. At the end of it all, we can't fake competence. We are as competent as we actually are. And ideally, what we want to do is always make sure that we know what we're talking about. We want to spend time alone to go do self-investment, make sure we are taking care of ourselves, make sure we learn what we want to speak about and what we want to give our opinion on, because we value other people's time and attention, right? When they listen to us, we better not be spewing out some misinformation just to sound smart and interesting, right? We want to actually know what we're talking about so we can offer value to people. Let's think about it like that. If you do feel inferior and you feel like you lack power in your conversations and your relationships, then you probably actually do. And everything you try, every technique you look at, whether it's to improve your charisma or your social confidence, is forever going to feel uncomfortable and strange and awkward at first. But that doesn't mean that it's inauthentic or it's not you or it's too autistic to consider or it's too autistic to try. Just like learning how to ride a bike for the first time. The first time you do it, you're going to fall down, it's going to feel like it's not you, it's uncomfortable, it's awkward, you're going to get injured sometimes, and you're going to do it terribly to the point where people could point and laugh. But it's okay, you're learning a skill. Make fun of yourself for it if you have to. It's funny, okay? And it's far from selfish to invest in yourself and to try to practice these charisma techniques and try to be more socially confident. We as a person, we want to express ourselves in servitude to the people who have cared about us. They have invested their time, they have valued us before, they've given us their attention and care before. By all means, you deserve to have social confidence. You deserve to be more competent. You deserve to self-invest in yourself in servitude to the people who have cared about you, to prove them that they were right for caring about you, for treating you like you were valuable. So don't ever start thinking like you don't deserve to try to be confident, you don't deserve to present yourself well or put yourself out there. Then you'll just be spitting on the faces of anyone who has ever cared about you. Do it imperfectly, be patient with yourself, it's going to be fun. Let's do this. Keep working on yourself, man. Good luck. I love you. It's a better world.